When it comes to the origins of the universe, who is right? Science or the Bible? Speaking specifically today about the origins of the universe, who has it right? Scripture or science? Let's talk about it today on Justified by Score. All right, folks, let's talk about a highly debated topic today. But I want to put a specific twist on it. In the midst of all of the information that we're going to cover, I want to cover it in the light of this very statement. No matter what you conclude, it will be based on assumptions you don't have the evidence to prove. So let's talk about it now. Scripture versus science. How do we, as Christians, contend against science and stand firm in the truth about the origins of the universe? My immediate answer is, do we really have to? Really? Because again, no matter what we conclude about the age of the universe, it will be based on information that no one has the evidence to prove. Here's what I mean by that. The scientists who date the age of the Earth at 4.5 billion years old, they are making an assumption on information they don't have the evidence to prove. Let me give you an example. If scientists say that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, they are basing it on dating methods that aren't necessarily consistent. Also, they are assuming that those methods have been consistent over 4.5 billion years. That's an assumption that they do not have the evidence to prove. When using carbon dating to date certain things, carbon dating has to assume that the original amount of carbon was a specific number in the specimen. As well, they also have to assume that the decay has been consistent over that exact period of time as well. Neither of which can be proven. It's only assumed. So any conclusion that you come to will be based on assumptions you don't necessarily have the evidence to prove. Christians, you are not in the clear on this either. All of the arguments Christians have for the age of the earth, universe, earth, even mankind has to assume things that they do not have the evidence to prove. Let me be clear on one thing before I continue. Though there are differing opinions on the age or intention of the author of Scripture, I do not think the Bible is wrong about anything. I think we, as fallen men, I think we err on understanding. Remember, knowledge is humbling. The more you know, the more you should know that you know nothing. Let's address some disagreements even amongst the Christian arena on the age of the earth. Genesis 1:1 says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Well, when was the beginning? It's a good question, right? Hebrew scholars believe that there was a definite point in the past that this instance took place. And they took place in some time, but they can't agree or pinpoint the exact time of that occurrence. In this instance, I'll rely on a pertinent scorism. When the Bible is quiet, I'm quiet. This is what is referred to sometimes as the gap theory. The gap theory suggests that there is a significant time gap between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2. The proponents of the gap theory believe that between these two verses are a considerable amount of time that have passed. The concept then applies that the initial creation of the heavens and the earth in Genesis 1:1 may have happened billions of years ago, aligning with scientific estimates of the age of the earth. Could be possible. Following this, there could have been a cataclysmic event or a period of chaos leading to the formless, void state described in Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. So what are the implications of this theory on our interpretation of the creation timeline? First, it allows for reconciliation between biblical account and the scientific evidence regarding the age of the earth and universe. By considering a gap, we can also acknowledge that the earth could be much older than a literal 6-day creation period happening 7,000 years ago. Second, by accepting it as a possibility, it also adds to the intellectual honesty of the individual. Again, strongly keeping in mind that any hard stance you take will have to be founded on information you simply do not have the evidence to support, let alone prove. The key takeaway from the gap theory is that these interpretations do not diminish the core message of Scripture, that God is the creator and sustainer of all things. In conclusion, the gap theory provides a compelling way to bridge the perceived gap between faith and science, offering a timeline that accommodates both the biblical narrative and scientific discoveries. Remember, our goal isn't to force Scripture into a scientific mold, but to seek understanding and harmony between the two. God created order in order, and we should be able to use science to figure out what that order is. I definitely have to lay this disclaimer as well. I have not stated what I believe. Rather, I'm just exposing the flaws and showing the strengths in the differing arguments. Don't come here saying that I'm siding with science on the matter, or I'm disregarding Scripture, because that is the first thing from the truth. Now, science often points to the Big Bang Theory as the origin of the universe, but here's the thing. The Big Bang Theory doesn't necessarily contradict the idea of a creator. Instead, it can be seen as the method in which God used to create the universe. Frank Turek likes to say he is not against the Big Bang Theory. He just knew who the banger was: God. Under the atheistic view, nothing caused the Big Bang. In the Christian view, God is the initiator of everything. God is the first cause uncaused, the ultimate source of everything. So even if we disagree on the cause, we can still agree that it was caused without contradiction. But there are many Christians who don't believe in an old universe, and they take a literal understanding of the creation story and believe the universe to be closer to 7,000 years old. And here are all of the atheists now. See, even Christians can't agree on the age of the earth, and they contradict each other, so they have to be wrong. Yeah. So that's an argument that I hear often. So as with other claims, I will take this claim and test it against itself. If you are going to say that because Christians can't agree on the age of the earth, whether it's 4 billion or 7,000, that they are all wrong, well, I'm going to take your same logic, and then with that same logic, since scientists can't agree on anything, then all of them are wrong as well. Are you going to stay logically consistent and agree with what I just posited, or are you going to adjust the goalposts just to make yourself right? Let's get back on the topic. Science tells us that the Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. Some Christians, on the other hand, believe in a young Earth based on a literal interpretation of the Genesis creation account. But remember, the Bible is not a scientific textbook. It is more of a spiritual and moral guide, a conversation from God to you. The days in Genesis could represent longer periods in time. The Hebrew word yom, translated as day, can also mean an age or an epoch. Even in one verse, it is used to describe 2 time periods. Day and night were the first day, yom. So yom and night were the first day. So a 12-hour period was yom, and a 24-hour period was yom. It's a day. Side note, the lesser light and the greater light weren't created until day 4. So how long were the first 3 days then? That's for another day, age, or epoch. Could it be possible that the author intended longer periods of time than just 24-hour periods? Yes, it is absolutely possible and reasonable. But again, no matter what stance you take, you're going to have to rely on a foundation you do not have the evidence to support, yet alone proof. Here's what we absolutely know for sure. The universe had a beginning, and it is absolutely reasonable to believe that a being caused the universe to come into existence. From there, it is debatable to argue whether it is a literal 6 days. Keep in mind, That if a being has the ability to create the universe, that being could also create the universe with the effect of time already applied to it. So I'm absolutely sure that the universe is, at least a couple of years old. That I'm absolutely sure of. If you're a scientist or an atheist who disagrees, I encourage you, please provide evidences to disprove my statements. If you are a Christian, I challenge you to heed the command of Peter and always be ready to provide a reasonable defense for the hope that is within you. In conclusion, we do not need to fear science. Rather, we need to engage it. Knowing that the founding fathers of science all believed that there was a God who designed everything. Therefore, because a God designed everything and designed it in order, we could trust our minds and we could do science. And this has been another episode of Justified by Score. I look forward to your comments and your disagreement. Until next time, Lord willing, of course, peace and grace.